Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So today I've been asked to read from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila chapter 4, beginning with text 30. In the previous verse, we heard Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explain that in the words of Lord Chaitanya, that he was going to appear and carry out wonderful pastimes with his devotees, especially the gopis, and Yogamaya was going to influence them so that the gopis thought Krishna was their paramour. So in text 30, Amiha na jani taha na jane gopi gana dunhara rupa gune dunhara nitya harimana. The translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Neither the gopis nor I shall notice this, for our minds will always be entranced by one another's beauty and qualities. So there's a lengthy purport, but it's such an important topic, I don't want to skip over it. Purport. In the spiritual sky, the Vaikuntha planets are predominated by Narayan. His devotees have the same features as he does, and the exchange of devotion there is on the platform of reverence. But above all these Vaikuntha planets is Goloka, or Krishna Loka, where the original personality of Godhead, Krishna, fully manifests his pleasure potency in free, loving affairs. Since the devotees in the material world know almost nothing about these affairs, the Lord desires to show these affairs to them. In Goloka Vrindavan, there is an exchange of love known as Parakiya Rasa. It is something like the attraction of a married woman for a man other than her husband. In the material world, this sort of relationship is most abominable because it is a perverted reflection of the Parakiya Rasa in the spiritual world, where it is the highest kind of loving affair. Such feelings between the devotee and the Lord are presented by the influence of Yoga Maya. The Bhagavad Gita states that devotees of the highest grade are under the care of Daivi Maya or Yoga Maya. Mahatmanas tumam parta, Daivim prakritim ashritaha. Bhagavad Gita 9:13. Those who are actually great souls, Mahatmas, are fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, always engaged in the service of the Lord. They are under the care of Daivi Prakriti or Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya creates a situation in which the devotee is prepared to transgress all regulative principles simply to love Krishna. A devotee naturally does not like to transgress the laws of reverence for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but by the influence of Yoga Maya, he is prepared to do anything to love the Supreme Lord better. Those under the spell of the material energy cannot at all appreciate the activities of Yoga Maya, for a conditioned soul can hardly understand the pure reciprocation between the Lord and his devotee. But by executing devotional service under the regulative principles, one can become very highly elevated and then begin to appreciate the dealings of pure love under the management of Yoga Maya. In the spiritual loving sentiments induced by the Yoga Maya potency, both Lord Sri Krishna and the damsels of Vraja forget themselves in spiritual rapture. By the influence of such forgetfulness, the attractive beauty of the gopis plays a prominent part in the transcendental satisfaction of the Lord, which has nothing to do with mundane sex. Because spiritual love of Godhead is above everything mundane, the gopis superficially seem to transgress the codes of mundane morality. This perpetually puzzles mundane moralists. Therefore, Yogamaya acts to cover the Lord and his pastimes from the eyes of the mundaners, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:25, where the Lord says that he reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone. The acts of Yogamaya make it possible for the Lord and the gopis to have loving ecstasy, and the gopis in loving ecstasy to sometimes meet and sometimes separate. These transcendental loving affairs of the Lord are unimaginable to empiricists involved in the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. Therefore, the Lord himself appears before the mundaners to bestow upon them the highest form of spiritual realization and also personally relish its essence. The Lord is so merciful that he himself descends to take the fallen souls back home to the kingdom of Godhead, where the erotic principles of Godhead are eternally relished in their real form, distinct from the perverted sexual love so much adored and indulged in by the fallen souls in their diseased condition. The reason the Lord displays the Rasa Lila is essentially to induce all fallen souls to give up their diseased morality and religiosity and to attract them to the kingdom of God to enjoy the reality. A person who actually understands what the Rasa Lila is will certainly hate to indulge in mundane sex life. For the realized soul, hearing the Lord's Rasa Lila through the proper channel will result in complete abstinence from material sexual pleasure. So what we're dealing with in this part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita are the confidential reasons why Lord Chaitanya appears. And Lord Chaitanya is not appearing just by himself. He appears as part of the whole Panchatattva. And if we examine the Panchatattva, we see that it includes so much. I remember when I first became involved with the Krishna consciousness movement, one of the books I got after getting a Bhagavad Gita at a Grateful Dead concert, I wrote to LA to the secretary for more information, and I got a little catalog of books. So one of the books that I ordered was Lord Chaitanya in 5 Features. It's an amazing book. You know, I'd never seen such an intricate and beautiful concept of God displayed as Lord Chaitanya being the Radha Krishna Nahe Anya. He's non-different from the form of Radha and Krishna, and the other members of the Panchatattva represent the different energies of the Lord, and the different Purushas or personalities in charge. It's also intricately woven together that it made absolute perfect sense. But it was so attractive, the concept of God being, not that other concepts of God are bad, but it's being mentioned here, the Vaikuntha planets, where devotees worship the Lord as a great king with great awe and reverence. So for many souls, that's appropriate, and there's facility for that kind of worship of God as the greatest, the most powerful, the supreme personality of Godhead to whom everyone else must surrender. But Lord Chaitanya is saying in this part of the Bhagavatam that he's not going to be content with introducing that type of spirituality into this material world. He's going to bring the highest form of spiritual realization, of spiritual pleasure, of pure devotional service. And he's going to distribute it freely to everyone, giving everyone the opportunity. So it's probably the most important event in history. If people are interested in history, they note down so many things. This battle took place, this economy developed and crashed, this empire fell and rose. But the most important events in this material cosmos are the interventions or avatars of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this special form of Lord Chaitanya, which appears very rarely, so recent on this planet within the past 500 years, nobody will see him again until the next day of Brahma. So it's really a great opportunity for us. And one of the attractive features of the Krishna consciousness movement is that it offers people the highest, most transcendental form of love. That's part of devotional service. And the first thing to understand is that we're a servant. We're not independent enjoyers. Jivara Sarupahoy Krishnara Nityadas. That we're eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in our stage of sadhana bhakti, we have to act according to rules and regulations. And but Srila Prabhupada is pointing out in this purport that that's not the ultimate goal. And in the previous verses in this chapter, we see descriptions of how the Lord is treated by his friends in Goloka Vrindavan. Who are you? You think you're so great? Krishna's friends say to him. They behave with him very freely. And the gopis, it's stated here, they're actually being, both the gopis and Krishna are being manipulated by the Yogamaya potency. But in this verse, we're hearing they don't understand that. They just feel attraction for each other as the most attractive personalities. And this is important for people to understand, that ultimately God is a person, and it's possible to have a personal relationship with him that is not based on the normal kinds of considerations people are informed about when they hear about God. So this whole aspect of things is going to be part of our presentation in the Museum of the Temple of Vedic Planetarium in Mayapur. We're going to, there's lots of information in the Srimad Bhagavatam about astronomy, the arrangement of the planets, and so on. But ultimately, the purpose is to draw people's attention to the fact that beyond this material cosmos, which is always perpetually undergoing creation, maintenance, and ultimately destruction, it's a temporary place. So there is a spiritual world. There's Devi Dham, there's Mahesh Dham, there's Hari Dham, and there's Goloka Dham. Devi Dham is the realm of the material energy personified, Durga. And beyond that, on the margin between the spiritual and material worlds, there is Mahesh Dham, and the abode of Lord Shiva, who acts as the protector of the spiritual world, not allowing unqualified personalities to enter it. Then beyond that, there's Haridham, the realm of the Vaikuntha planets, presided over by Lord Narayan. And that is the place for those who have a taste for relating to God as the Supreme King, dominant personality, all-powerful, etc. But beyond that, there is Golokadam, which itself has its divisions. There's a place where Lord Chaitanya and his associates carry out their Leela. There is Goloka Vrindavan, there is Dwarka, there's a Dwarka division of it, and a Mathura division. So Lord Chaitanya was coming especially to give personalities in this world to attain the position of the devotees in Goloka Vrindavan. So we'll read on. Text 31. Dharma chadi rage dunhe karya milana, kabu mile kabu na mile daivara gatana. Translation. Pure attachment will unite us at the expense of moral and religious duties, dharma. Destiny will sometimes bring us together and sometimes separate us. Purport. The gopis came out to meet Krishna in the dead of night. When they heard the sound of his flute, Srila Rupa Goswami has accordingly composed a nice verse. See Adi 5, text 224, that describes the beautiful boy called Govinda standing by the bank of Yamuna with his flute to his lips in the shining moonlight. Those who want to enjoy life in the materialistic way of society, friendship, and love should not go to the Yamuna to see the form of Govinda. The sound of Lord Krishna's flute is so sweet that it has made the gopis forget all about their relationships with their kinsmen and flee to Krishna in the dead of night. By leaving home in that way, the gopis transgressed the Vedic regulations of householder life. This indicates that when natural feelings of love for Krishna become fully manifest, a devotee can neglect conventional social rules and regulations. In the material world, we are situated in designated positions only, but pure devotional service begins when one is freed from all designations. When love for Krishna is awakened, the designated positions are overcome. The spontaneous attraction of Sri Krishna for his dearest parts and parcels generates an enthusiasm that obliges Sri Krishna and the gopis to meet together. To celebrate this transcendental enthusiasm, there is need of a sentiment of separation between the lover and the beloved. In the condition of material tribulation, no one wants the pangs of separation. But in the transcendental form, the very same separation, being absolute in its nature, strengthens the ties of love and enhances the desire of the lover and beloved to meet. The period of separation, evaluated transcendentally, is more relishable than the actual meeting, which lacks the feelings of anticipation because the lover and beloved are not present. What is it? Because they are both separated. Yes. Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. Krishna Prema Pradayate, we pray sometimes that Lord Chaitanya has come to give prema. That is his confidential reason for coming, to experience it himself and to give all others the opportunity to experience it. So this is one reason, or it's the main reason for people to be attracted to his movement so they can achieve that. It's called there are 4 Purusharthas: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But the 5th one is prema, devotional service, love of God. And Lord Chaitanya came especially to give that. He also came to perform the Yuga Dharma. It's explained that both things happened at the same time. It was time to introduce the Yuga Dharma of Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And it was also time for him to come by his desire to give this special dispensation to the conditioned souls in this material world. And it's mentioned in this purport that in order for there to be these loving exchanges, there has to be lover and beloved coming together. In other words, the Mayavadi philosophy that everything is one rules out these kinds of exchanges. There are different places in India that are associated with the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Of course, Sridham Mayapur is there, Vrindavan is there, Jagannath Puri is there. All the places he visited in South India are there. But, there is also Varanasi or Benares. which is not the favorite pilgrimage place of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, but he did perform some interesting pastimes there, especially in dealing with Mayavadi sannyasis. He would, as a sannyasi, he was invited to take his meals at different places. So he always took his meals with Tapan Mishra, who was his devotee. In terms of ordinary society, not considered to be a very elevated person, but still, because he was Lord Chaitanya's devotee, Lord Chaitanya preferred to take his meals there, accept his invitation to do that, because then when any other person came to invite him, you had to take a meal at their place where they might also be inviting some Mayavadi sannyasis. He could say, sorry, I've got a previous engagement. So he kind of arranged his life like that. But one of the devotees there began to complain to him about how he was being blasphemed by the leader of the Mayavadi sannyasis. So by some arrangement, Lord Chaitanya went to that place of Prakashananda Saraswati, and by behaving in a very humble way and displaying his opulences, he attracted the minds of the Mayavadi sannyasis and was able to eventually to have discourse with them in which he showed that their impersonal reading of the Vedanta Sutra was not correct. And there's actually a little Chaitanya temple in Varanasi where on the wall there are paintings of Lord Chaitanya doing that. So that is another aspect of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, establishing the Yuga Dharma, establishing the proper philosophy of Vedanta. Vedashvaraham eva veyo Vedanta krit veda eva chaham. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, by all the Vedas I am to be known. And indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta. So we're kind of carrying on in that mood with our book distribution, which is connected with the Rasa Lila and the other higher sentiments that we've been discussing today. I think it was here in Los Angeles that I believe Rameshwar Prabhu wrote to Srila Prabhupada asking if the pastimes of book distribution are related to the Krishna Lila in Vrindavan, including the Rasa Lila and the relation with the gopis. And Prabhupada said yes. So there's everything that we're doing in Lord Chaitanya's movement is tied together, but ultimately leading to these understandings of the real meaning of love. We've heard in these purports that what's called love in the material world is a perverted reflection of an eternally existing reality. And everyone wants to find true love in some way or another, but it will be found in these eternal relationships with Krishna. And if one is properly situated in that way, one is properly situated in relationship to all other jiva souls or eternally liberated souls. One is properly situated in relationship to everything, all living entities, and the source of them all, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya was spreading this mercy around. He said it was like a flood of love of Godhead that was inundating the whole world, and everyone was just drowning in that flood. But it said there were two categories of persons who were expert in avoiding that mercy. The Mayavadis and what was called the worst of the student class, Paduya Adama. And in his purports to that part of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada says, in modern context, that means the materialistic scientists, atheists, philosophers, and so on. So Lord Chaitanya had to invent special tricks to capture those who were very expert at avoiding his mercy. So we do that today in the form of our science preaching. You know, it's like a special trick in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan army. So tomorrow we will be celebrating the actual appearance day of Lord Chaitanya. I remember in 1979 I was in Mayapur, and we were with several other devotees chanting our Gayatri mantra as the moon was rising over the Ganges, and you could hear the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra from the ISKCON temple and from the other mats. And it was probably one of the most wonderful moments of my life, you know, to be in Mayapur, in the Ganges, moon rising, and chanting Gayatri mantra. And more important than that, hearing the Hare Krishna mantra being chanted so nicely in that setting. Okay, Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Thank you, Drutakarma Prabhu. That was a lot more than just a reading. Thank you. My question is this, you were reading, Lord Chaitanya is coming to display these pastimes of, exchanges of love beyond awe and reverence. And when I had class on Monday, there was this verse by Rupa Goswami, Anarpita Chiram Shada. He's more than just trying to display it, he wants to distribute it. And you yourself quoted that Krishna Prema Pradayate, which is another verse by, an excerpt of something Rupa Goswami said about how he's coming. So my question is this, that what do we have to do to get it? Because we're in Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement, is it that we just kind of keep doing what we're doing and try to be more enthusiastic and everything is just going to be revealed to us in due course of time? Is there some special cultivation that's required? How do you actually get it?
I think we have to admit that we are experiencing transcendental bliss in this movement. I mean, sometimes I have to almost twist my arm and say, admit it, you're enjoying Krishna consciousness. You know, I mean, we shouldn't be so skeptical that we talk ourselves out of being happy and satisfied in Krishna consciousness. That isn't to excuse any offenses or bad behavior, but I think we have to admit to ourselves that this process really does work. It's not like everything else we've tried to do in the material world, where we're simply identifying, as we were talking about the other day, with a phantasmagoric false self, this body made of the material elements, and using it to try to enjoy false temporary things caught up in a phantasmagoria. We've tried so many ways to excel in enjoying the material energy, and it's always been a failure. We've never gotten what we wanted. In millions of bodies, performing millions of activities, trying to become successful in so many different ways, and it's all been for naught. So our involvement with the Krishna consciousness movement is not like that. Whether we understand or admit it, Yoga Maya has brought us into the association of pure devotee Srila Prabhupada, the association of devotees that he created, and it's going on. So it's not, as we've tried so many things. Coming in contact with the Krishna consciousness movement is not some one more little thing that we've tried to do, and that our expectations of it are so low because of our conditioning with our previous involvement in so many ultimately useless activities. This is not like that. Like sometimes, because we have this conditioning of chasing after false things for so many lifetimes, you may think, well, this is another false thing. I'm not getting anything from it. If I weren't getting some satisfaction on some spiritual level I wouldn't be here. I'd be, if it did turn out to be just another detour, another wrong turn, I don't think I could stay. So do you really think you're not getting it?
Well, maybe not as much as I'd like, but yeah, your point is well taken. Your point is well taken. Don't be so skeptical that you talk yourself out of admitting that you're getting something. You know, you're.
Is it enough?
Huh?
Is it enough?
I want more, but you know, yeah, I guess I have to admit that I'm definitely getting something.
Yeah.
Appreciate your answer. Thank you.
But one thing we get is these wonderful books. Srila Prabhupada said, everything is in my books. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Thank you.